This is the Blockchain Real Estate Podcast, sponsored by the Blockchain Real Estate Summit. If you're interested in the intersection of real estate, blockchain technology, AI, and more, you've come to the right place. Don't miss your opportunity to attend the Blockchain Real Estate Summit 2024, happening this September 24th through 26th, online for our worldwide audience. Get your tickets at blockchainrealestatesummit.com/registration. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blockchain Real Estate Summit podcast. I am Michael Flight, and this is a podcast featuring Borys from Stobox.io. And this is a podcast talking about blockchain real estate. And we first want to make mention of the fact that the Blockchain Real Estate Summit is happening September 24th through 26th. It's all online. It's 3 days. It's 3 separate time zones. And our guest today is going to be one of the presenters at the summit, but we wanted to interview them a little bit more in depth today. As always, this is not financial advice, this is not legal advice, and this is not accounting advice. So you should always check with your local regulators, and you should always check with your attorneys. With that, I want to introduce Borys from Stobox. And Borys, tell us a little bit about how Stobox came into existence, how you got into the marketplace, and why some sophisticated tech guys decided to get into security tokens versus going the crypto route or the pure crypto route, or I might be wrong with that. So Borys, why don't you give me a little bit of history as to you and the company?
Okay, so first of all, Michael, thank you so much for inviting me to the podcast. I'm excited to be here. Regarding our history, we have 3 founders in Stobox, me, Jean, and Ross, and we all have pretty non-linear career paths. So Jean has been serial entrepreneur, dabbling into different industries. Myself, I come from academia. Ross comes from financial trading and sales background. And we met at various tech events in Kyiv, in the capital of Ukraine, as we are all from Ukraine. And at that time, we didn't have yet a deep understanding of the industry or how significant the potential is. What we saw, however, is that the crypto market is developing. This was in late 2018 when we started meeting and started thinking about doing something cool together. So we understood that crypto market is growing. B, we saw that on the level of technology, we do see that this is a future where we believe that finance industry has to be moving, and given just the scope and the volume of finance industry, even if you don't know specifically what is going to happen, the transformation across the next few decades is going to be extremely significant, and therefore just doing something, getting into there will likely uncover interesting opportunities for us to get involved, to participate in this transformation and make some money along the way. When it comes to the specific idea, and when we got into security tokens in late 2018 is a period where the first ICO bubble was already bursting. And we understood on one hand that there is an interest in more democratized, decentralized forms of fundraising. But on another hand, we didn't want to be involved with ICOs because already at that point, it was clear that there is a lot of illegal activity happening there. They begin to suffer reputationally, and the bubble has been already bursting. So it was to a large extent too late to go into ICOs, and also it was to a large extent against our values. But already at that point, there have been discussions about security tokens as an alternatives. Obviously, there was very niche discussions, but we were able to participate in them, and we decided to bet on this as a next wave of crypto, because it was clear that if the finance industry in general is going to be transformed, then security tokens are going to be a primary vehicle through which this transformation and the transition to blockchain is going to happen. We were wrong in some ways, because we believe this is going to be the next hype cycle, while there were two more before we go to tokenization of real world assets as being a major narrative. So we were definitely wrong on the timing, but I believe in terms of a fundamental idea that tokenized securities are the primary mechanism tool through which transition of finance happen. I believe on this we were right, and this is what's unfolding at the moment. So in this way, the bet was correct. So
Yeah,
this is how we
yeah,
started.
that is a fantastic history. And why don't we unpack some of that? Because it kind of mirrors my journey in the space, where I had helped some guys do an ICO, and they raised some money. And then I decided to do that and realized that I'm regulated, and so I cannot do an ICO in the United States. So I found out what a security token is. And very early on, I heard about Stobox and some of the stuff you were doing. And I really agree with your thesis then and now that blockchain is the rails of the new financial system. And so whether people care about what's happening with blockchain in the background or not, at some point, all financial assets are going to be running on blockchain. So I agree with your thesis there. I also see that there was going to be two big times where real world assets were going to take off, and this year we're in the summer of real world assets, so we'll see if they take off now. But I think you're well positioned to create some excellent real world assets and put those on chain so that people have something that's has native value versus kind of made up value, or venture capital made up value. So why don't you get into a little bit more about what Stobox does, and tell us about that.
We evolved significantly through time with what we do, what is a core product and value proposition. So initially we started with doing a crowdfunding type platform, which is a centralized platform with multiple security tokens built on top of a private blockchain. At that point, we believed that if you're working in a regulated industry with securities, then it got to be private blockchain, and we saw ourselves as a purely tech company. But over time, we encountered limitations of that model. The fact that such a platform would have to acquire a broker-dealer or crowdfunding license in all jurisdictions we wanted to operate, and we want to operate globally. And the fact that many customers we were approaching at the time, and which are still the big part of our customer base, which is small and medium enterprises, lack more than technology, because due to the fact that capital raising overall has been limited for this type of companies, they lack not only technology but also other types of infrastructure, which is legal expertise and investor outreach expertise, financial modeling expertise, etc. And therefore, what we did, first of all, we shifted technologically to a white label solution where we set up a separate platform for each customer, and therefore they conduct their token sale on their own behalf without a licensed financial intermediary, which makes it significantly easier, which allows us to avoid being licensed, and therefore gives us freedom to operate globally across a range of jurisdictions. And currently we have customers on all 5 continents. So this has been a correct decision. Secondly, we also added consulting and legal services to support our clients and make the usage of the technology feasible. And so we shifted to a turnkey solution model. And when we did that, this is where we saw product market fit, and when we saw our and when we saw our sales going up. So it turned out to be the right decision to add this to our scope of services, to the scope of what we deliver. And
So can we go back to so the white label solution, the company itself kind of does their own crowdfunding, and you are creating not only a landing page but an entire back end to do the whole fundraising process?
yes, this is correct. So you can think about this as your own personalized crowdfunding platform. And we set up the copy of this platform for each of our customers and configure it to the specific customer needs.
Okay. And then let's because you guys actually are doing the tokenization, and a lot of people don't understand what tokenization is. So in this situation, you're tokenizing actual shares of companies, or you're tokenizing shares of a project or a fund. Is that correct?
Not only shares, we are agnostic regarding type of security, and for each client we design for their specific case what type of security works better. Is it a share or a debt or some kind of hybrid security, and is it issued from the companies that does involved in main operations, or do we set up a separate special purpose vehicle only for the purposes of tokenization? So this depends on the client and their unique needs and the asset type. So do they do a new project, or do they tokenize the existing entity, in which jurisdiction they operate? Because in some jurisdictions, like in many European countries, tokenizing equity for private companies is quite inconvenient, and so you got to go with profit participation or debt tokens, for example. But generally, the answer is yes.
Okay, but now we get into, you just, open up the whole thing as to why you're doing and combining the legal services in there, because in order to even structure a token sale, you need to start with number one, what the company has, and you said you're helping them do financial modeling and things like that, and then structuring it for the jurisdiction and for whatever they're raising on. Is that correct? So can you talk a little bit about, the custom package that you do there?
Sure. So overall, our process is broken down into 5 steps. Step 1 is project planning, where we answer all of these questions. In what jurisdiction should the company be set up? Should it be a separate SPV or the operating company? What type of token has to be issued? Under which regulation this should be sold, and to which investors? And we have over 40 parameters that we tailor for each offering. And we look at this holistically. That is not only optimizing each parameter separately, but looking at the overall scope of parameters. So for example, whether the US is feasible jurisdiction might depend on the targeted investor type, because it's determined whether the Section 12G from the Securities Act applies and limits the rule that an equity there can be no more than 2,000 equity holders for a security that is not registered. So if you're going to target non-accredited investors internationally and you will likely exceed this rule, then it's better for you to select a company outside of the US, even despite potential tax disadvantages to that. So we're looking holistically at what is better, considering all of these aspects. And this is challenging because it requires you to combine different types of expertise, not only legal expertise, but also financial and marketing expertise, like what sounds better to investors. And also you need to have a cross-border expertise, because the problem we have is many lawyers we ourselves have worked that they are focused only on their own country, be it Malta or Liechtenstein or US, etc. And therefore they can answer you how to tokenize in this specific country, but they cannot advise you on, is it the right country for your project and the overall structure you're going to do. And therefore, we have to develop this expertise internally by doing case studies. We probably studied hundreds of different tokenization cases by studying legislation in dozens of different countries, corporate legislation, securities legislation, virtual asset legislation, by designing different types of structures that we offer to customers, and obviously by working with clients in their specific cases. And I believe we built a pretty unique expertise, given that we have a very global footprint, given that we have customers from many different industries, not only real estate, and different business models and different fundraising targets. The smallest one being small 100K residential apartments, and the largest one being a $1 billion shrimp farm in Qatar. So we also have, so because of this diversity, we were able to have a bird's eye view on different types of structures. So this is step 1, this is planning. And this is in some, even though this is the shortest one, this is also in some sense most important and most complex. Then step 2 is legal. The legal step involves two primary work streams. One is setting up the corporate structure, that is creating the company, registering bank accounts, etc. And second one includes preparation of the offering documentation, that is offering memorandum, that is subscription agreement, that is different policies that ensures that investors can prove their legal ownership right towards token. They have some papers they can show that this is the token they bought and they own. They provide proper disclosure so that investors can say that they have been properly informed about all the terms of the offering before they made a purchase, and this reduces the legal risk for the issuer, and also this is just more fair towards investors. So this is two primary work streams at the legal stage. There can be a third work stream related to getting approvals, licenses, registrations, etc. However, most of our customers go with a private placement route where they don't need any registrations or licenses. But this is something that is possible for some customers. Then step 3 is technical, and this primarily involves the deployment of our platform, white label platforms that we discussed before, deployment, configuration, creation of the smart contract, etc. Step 4 is marketing, which is the outreach to investors. At this stage, we primarily work with different marketing partners and agencies that can either do a digital campaign across social media, or they have an investor database and they do email, LinkedIn outreach to the database. So this is step 4, and we are continuously building the database of these kinds of partners so that we can help more clients and more diverse clients with the fundraising they are doing. And then step 5 is maintenance and secondary trading, where our platform can be utilized across the all lifespan of a token to distribute dividends, distribute reports, quarterly annual reports to investors, to manage cap table, etc. And also the token can be listed on an exchange. This can be our decentralized exchange, digital securities swap, or it can be one of the licensed security token exchanges such as INX, Archax, Etc., etc. So this is the process we have built to guide clients throughout the entire tokenization life cycle and be a trusted partner, so that they don't just give them technologies and do whatever you want, but they actually know step by step with their hands held how to go through the entire tokenization.
And I think this is really important because as we started out to launch Liberty Fund, it was an education, and most of the people that we talked to knew only the technology part, and they had no concept of how to fit the legal part into it. They also had no concept. We particularly are focused on real estate, and real estate is a unique asset in the United States. It's also unique in different parts of the world. But part of the planning thing that you were talking about when you're setting up legal jurisdiction and how it's going to be structured, and how many people can participate into it, and if you're accepting non-US investors, are you setting up a Cayman Islands or a BVI blocker corporation? But the most important thing is that real estate for non-US investors is taxed differently than real estate for US investors. So we also had to spend a lot of money figuring out with our accountants how to structure that part of it. So I'm really glad that you guys are giving a total market solution versus just saying, hey, we're gonna do an ERC20 token and we're gonna launch, or I forget what a NFT is, but we're gonna do an NFT and we're gonna launch it on OpenSea, and you're gonna be great. So and you'll raise all the money that you want, which is what I still see in a lot of situations, and we've had those people contact us and say, well, we'd like to speak at the Blockchain Real Estate Summit, and I just candidly say, what you're doing is illegal, and what you're doing is something that's going to create a lot of problems for everybody else, so we don't really want to highlight it. So we would rather work with people, especially in the Blockchain Real Estate Summit, that are working within the regulatory boundaries and actually have an idea as to how this stuff actually works. Because that's the other thing. I have a lot of people approach me and say, I've got a 4-unit building in Kansas City or something like that. And I'm like, well, if you can't raise the money for it regularly, it's going to cost a lot more to tokenize it. So I would just go out and get a track record first, and then, decide to get into tokenization. But what I would like to back up, and so in some of the different jurisdictions, you mentioned a shrimp farm, you mentioned apartments. So can you give us a little bit of an idea, like especially the apartments, like, how did that go? What were some of the difficulties in doing it, and what were the successes?
Okay, so about 65% of our clientele are real estate. So real estate is still the biggest our biggest market, and we're seeing very different business models in real estate. I would say most of our deals are construction deals, that is funding construction rather than tokenizing existing apartments, and this probably should be expected, because if you already have existing apartments and existing property that is cash generating, you have less urgency to do anything about it. Even if you can't sell it right now or you can't raise funding, you don't have that much urgency to seek for other solutions because you're pretty comfortable with existing asset.
Can I clarify? So when you're talking about construction, you're talking about a developer developing a new building. Is that what you're talking about as construction?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry I interrupted you. So
No
please
worries.
go.
Yeah, so I would say higher percentage of our deals are construction deals, though that one with apartments is already existing residential properties. The business model of that client was to purchase existing residential properties, tokenize them, sell to investors, and at a premium, and then basically pocket the difference. And this uses the principle of liquidity premium. That is the fact that assets that are fractionalized and tradable are more desirable for investors because there is lower risk of investing in such an asset, and therefore investors are open to paying higher price for such assets, or which is equivalent to demanding lower returns. And therefore you can do arbitrage when you tokenize properties by purchasing them and then selling to investors at a higher price and pocketing the difference. So this is a business model of this specific customer. Given that they are working with smaller apartments, one of the challenges is just doing this in a scalable way when you're using the same legal entity, the same set of documents, so that your price per token per issuance is low. Second challenge, and this is a standard challenge for all clients, is obviously marketing, because you have to create because marketing is expensive, and if your margin on these properties is small, it's challenging to have a profitable business. So that specific client, they came to us with a community they already built with a utility token. So it was an easier challenge for them to solve. And overall, what it highlights is that when it comes to marketing and investor outreach, it's useful to have a long-term view. That for your first raise, for this first round, you might pay more for marketing than you would have paid otherwise, than you would have paid in the interest on bank loan, etc. So it takes time to build community and build trust. However, if you play this as a long-term game, then you will build a community of investors who invested with you throughout 5-10 years, who, if they are satisfied with the returns you're delivering, they invite more investors to come with you, their friends, and then over time your cost of capital goes down dramatically, and then level of ambition you can achieve with your projects and level of return you can live for yourself goes significantly up. So as with anything else, tokenization is not a magic pill or silver bullet. It cannot bring you investors if you don't have a good project, if you don't have a personal or business track record. But it is a tool that can make this journey easier. It's like a surfing board that you can use to ride the waves when these waves come. And this was an important lesson we learned from that project. Another important, interesting point was importance and challenge of creating liquidity. That is, especially with real estate, this is an asset that investors perceive as a long-term investment rather than a speculative asset. And therefore, if you have many small projects, you shouldn't expect them to be traded often. And therefore, you should expect high volatility because one trade can move the market pretty significantly because there aren't many trades in the first place. And with this client, they initially had many projects, but now they move into lumping them together into a single token, into a fund token, because
So
they want to get
it's like a
higher liquidity.
portfolio of houses is
Yes,
what it
all
is.
of these houses
Yeah.
under one entity and one token, so that they have potentially higher liquidity, because liquidity is obviously one of the main selling points and one of the main benefits of tokenization. So this is also interesting point, that you should think strategically about creating liquidity and also be realistic about how much trading volume you can get based on what kind of business model you have. So if your project is more inherently speculative or more volatile, then you probably should expect more trading volume, and therefore you can, for example, demand higher liquidity premium. If this is something like traditional rental real estate, which is less volatile, you also should expect less trading volume and therefore lower liquidity premium.
Can I ask you, and you don't have to say what the project was, but what country were they operating out of?
They were operating out of the US, and these
Mhm.
were US properties, but they were selling them primarily to non-US investors.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And what's the difference between doing the real estate and doing some of the, like you said, the shrimp farm? Is that primarily a operating business or an agricultural type of a play? So,
So this client is actually also in some sense construction project. So they want to build this shrimp farm and set up the operation. The difference is that instead of being launched by a private entrepreneur, this is large local holdings with multi-billion operations across different sectors. And therefore they invested some of their own capital, and they have already started construction, even though we have not yet launched the race. And this deal is a purely institutional deal structured in Liechtenstein, which will be sold to European institutional investors, private equity funds, and family offices, potentially to pension funds. This is something we will have to test, whether they would be interested in this type of asset.
and is that going to be bonds, loans, or equity?
This is a mix of equity and debt. So investors actually can choose whether they invest in equity or a debt, depending
Okay,
on what kind of exposures they want.
okay. And what's the most unique real estate project you think you've ever done?
That's an interesting question. One interesting project we unfortunately haven't yet completed. This is on pause because the project owner has to negotiate with a construction firm. But one of the most interesting projects is a Cyprus-based project of a city within a city. So this is a large apartment complex that would have an entire infrastructure inside of it, with restaurants, recreational facilities, spa centers, community centers, a school, etc. So this is a place you don't even have to live for a large time. And what was interesting is that we didn't only create or plan to create a security token for that project, but there are also other tokens for internal ecosystems. So there will be a local utility token which serves as a loyalty point. That is, when you buy internally from local vendors, you get the utility rewards, which you can then redeem with the project owner for, let's say, rent discounts or other bonuses on one hand. And there is also internal payment token. And when you use internal payment token, you also get cash back in the form of these utility tokens. So there is additional monetization and this token would be licensed as an e-money token, and the client would, the issuer would hold all that money on balance and earn interest on it. So this is basically an additional revenue stream for the issuer. And what I especially like about this project is that it's isn't merely tokenizing the investment part, but creating an alternative financial infrastructure in general for this space, I would say. And this is an example of what we can do with blockchain in general, creating alternative bubbles, spaces with fully tokenized financial relationships, which can then lead into, let's say, network states and almost alternative economic and political structures as one of the ways to create that transition to tokenized economy. And I'm not necessarily advocating for that as the best way or something we definitely need. I'm not an antagonist to current states saying they are super oppressive and bad. I'm definitely not a fully anarchist, but it is
Some
true.
are oppressive and bad, but we'll just move on from that. But
Yeah, but I definitely recognize that current states have many problems. They move slow. They have often inadequate checks and balances and imperfect governance. And if we can create alternative structures that challenge them to evolve, then this is on net rather beneficial.
I am in complete agreement with you, because if we don't have experimentation and people can't decide how they want to like pull their lives together and live together, then we are going to have oppressive states. And there's this mindset that things can't ever change. But I live in the United States, and we're coming up very close to the 4th of July, which is Independence Day. And there was a bunch of people who were called revolutionary and rebels, and they decided to break away from England and, you know, start their own deal. And that was quite the experiment. It was, you know, quite the nation building thing. So I agree with you. If, you know, people can put together better solutions for their particular region, for their particular religion, for their particular, you know, political view, and they can make it work with, you know, the right balance of taxation and everything else. You know, why not do some experimenting and see? It's like, because, you know, more freedom is more freedom.
Agreed. Obviously, there is nuance to that as well. So, for example, sometimes this would end up reinventing the wheel, or
Right.
sometimes they can. The problem with such structures that they can also be used, for example, by cult leaders or ultra-right people who don't fit into existing government to create their something entirely different that would be internally oppressive, or it will be challenging for people to live. So I see how this can be used for oppression as well. And there is probably need for checks and balances on that too. So as with everything, the issue is complex.
Yes, and I'm just going to correct you and balance it out. The most oppressive regimes were not ultra-right, they were leftist, communists, and socialists. So, but we will stop there and go on to what type of projects do you think work best, especially in terms of real estate project? You said that you're seeing a lot of success with development and construction. So what have you seen like the most interest, or like one that was an outstanding, it really attracted a lot of interest and went pretty fast?
Mm, I don't believe there is a project that I would single out on that front. In terms of they had the flawless and easy fundraising. All of our projects had some or other challenges, and I would say the industry is still in the learning mode when it comes to how do you fundraise effectively. So in the crypto space, we see deals that are closed in, let's say, in a matter of hours,
Mhm.
or which are oversubscribed. And I believe that the security token industry has to learn from that. How do you build hype and anticipation and build the community in advance so that you have effective raises? We aren't yet able to do that. Though I would really love for there to be more talented market and community building teams that would make that happen.
Let's hit on that a little more, because that's what I've not concentrated on, but we've tried to, you know, especially in the blockchain real estate summit, we've always had panels on marketing and things like that, because nothing ever happens in life unless a sale happens. So why don't you talk a little bit, because I know crypto communities, they're active on Twitter, they're active on Discord, and they're active on this. Do you think that security tokens should be marketed that way? Or, and I'm not saying that you need to say there's a hard and fast thing, or do you think that, you know, there's you know, channels for accredited investors, or, you know, what do you think, how do you build a community?
I'd say it depends on the client. So, for example, we've seen one client from the UK, also real estate, though it was purchasing and renovating real estate in London. So their standard funnel is attracting, and they are focused on accredited investors, attracting investors via Facebook ads, then funneling them to webinars. Then from that webinars, they go to sales team, and from sales team, who close the deal, then they get the cash in. So this is one example of a funnel that doesn't involve community building, for example. For also for accredited institutional deals, you can do road shows when you just go to conferences, to summits, and you attract investors locally. So there are other forms that don't involve community building, but specifically for retail focused sales, when you go to retail investors, I would say crypto type community building is highly beneficial when individuals can interact with each other and get social proof, which makes it easier for you to stand out. B, get in some way, investing is for many individuals kind of scary, and doing this together with other individuals reduces this psychological barrier. And also this to a large extent becomes, when you go deeper into this community, when you monitor a project for a longer time, it becomes part of your identity. Supporting it and co-investing with these individuals becomes part of who you are, so it becomes easier to do that. Like with anything as we know from any SaaS business, retention is significantly cheaper than acquisition. And
Right.
community, if you think about in terms of like pirate funnel, acquisition, activation, and retention, then referral, then community increases efficiency in activation, in retention, and in referral. So in 3 out of 4 steps in the funnel, which is pretty powerful.
And right now, some of the biggest places to build community, it used to be Facebook. I see that going away. Discord is really popular, crypto, but also Telegram. Do you think there's any other things out there that are, tools to build community with investors and, get an active, what I like to call thriving fans of, your stuff?
The ones I've seen most commonly are Telegram and Discord.
Okay.
When you acquire community members, you still actively use Twitter, and you would commonly see conversations between, or X, and you would commonly see conversations between community members on that platform. But at the end of the day, the community space is usually Telegram or Discord. With Facebook, I haven't seen literally any client in any case study where they would have a strong Facebook group.
Well, Boris, I really want to thank you. Sometimes my frustration is that people in this industry, and this industry being the blockchain real estate industry, or the tokenized real estate industry, they have a very narrow technology focus. And with you today, we got really a master class on basically how to crowdfund with, tokenizing your shares and reaching new markets and new investors. So with that, did you want to add anything else to, was there anything we missed about Stobox?
Last point I probably would like to add is that our development is still ongoing, and there are exciting new things coming on the technology front too. So we are moving our platform to to build the next iteration of our platform on top of Fireblocks, which would give us many opportunities, including creation of wallets for users, and this would allow us to work not only with crypto native users but also with a broader range of investors. And it is also something that institutional investors and clients would be interested in. So we are moving up market, creating more robust platform for broader range of users. And this, I believe, the next stage of where the crypto has to go to be attractive, not only for people who are comfortable with existing technology, but also who prefer more traditional user experience. So this is probably the development I'm most excited about, where it is the highest potential. And I would definitely love if for you, for anybody listening, this has been a factor, a limiting factor from getting into tokenization, then you should definitely stay in touch and see where we release Stobox 4.
And let's dumb that down a bit for the guys like me that never really did math in high school. So what you're saying is that you're making it a much more user-friendly experience, because a lot of the early tokenization stuff, and definitely crypto, is you have to set up a wallet.
Mhm.
A wallet is like a MetaMask thing. You have to remember these phrases and stuff. So what you're trying to do is make it easier for most people, especially I'm going to tell you about the experience here in the United States. It's easy like setting up a Vanguard account. It's easy like setting up a Robinhood account. You don't have to worry about the wallet. The wallet is there, but it's more like having a financial account.
Yes, this is right. This is sad, but we actually had clients who failed because of these factors. For example, we had clients from the US, they wanted to tokenize local farmland, and their target audience were primarily older accredited investors who, like, this is a biggest wealth holding generation in history, US baby boomers. And unfortunately, and these are also all older gentlemen, so these were basically their friends and communities, and they were unfortunately unable to onboard investors to that version of our platform in 2021. It was also less user-friendly than it is now, but also this is inherently user experience in crypto not being convenient for everybody. And this is what we were working on throughout these years, and what we want to change, because we want a higher percentage of our clients to be successful.
This is what I have been really yelling at people in the industry since 2019. And I've explained to them that all my investors are either institutions or accredited investors. All my investors are, close to my age or, 10 years younger. And it took me 2 days to set up a MetaMask wallet. We have lost a lot of investors. So, when we came out with Liberty Fund, it was so tough to actually get the thing going, because we couldn't get over the hurdle. We kept telling people it's not crypto, it's just a standard real estate deal. It's actually a very safe real estate deal in terms of stuff out there. But we couldn't get over the hurdle because they had to get the whole wallet thing and all the rest of it. And it's like, well, this is crypto. And if you have to have an investor go through a 2-week process just to get their money into something, it's a at the time it was an insurmountable hurdle. So, well, with that, really appreciate all your insights and everything. Can you give us a little bit more information? So if somebody's listening, how could they learn more about Stobox.io? And that's Stobox.io. So where can they go to learn more? Do you have anything for them if they wanted to grab more information? So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. The best way is to actually go to our website, which you just mentioned, stobox.io, where you can learn about our products, services, and activities, where you can download, on the main page, if you scroll down, you can download our digital assets guide, which is about use cases of security tokens and other digital assets in different industries. You can read our blog. For example, recently I published an article about the legal nuances of tokenization in different jurisdictions, different layers of legislation, which probably many would be interested in. So there is a lot to explore on that website. And if you subscribe to our newsletter, you will receive all the updates about product, about new offerings, and about our webinars, because we also have a series of webinars called Stobox Academy, when we dive into different aspects of tokenization, and you will receive notifications about these webinars if you subscribe to the newsletter. Lastly, from time to time, we publish videos and interviews on our YouTube channel, where also I typically dive into some topic or a topic related to tokenizing real world assets. So this is also a great place to learn.
All right, fantastic. So if you want to learn more about Stobox.io, go to the website there. And we really appreciate Borys coming in. And Borys, I have seen your digital assets guide, and I think it's an excellent starting point for a lot of people. As we wrap up here, I also want to mention again that we're going to have people from Stobox at the Blockchain Real Estate Summit. That's coming up in September 24th through the 26th. So you can go to the blockchainrealestatesummit.com. That's blockchainrealestatesummit.com. We've got a discount right now on tickets, but tickets are moving fast. And so just want everybody to get out there. They're going to see not only Borys, but some of the other people that are doing different things, and you can see different asset types, but some incredible things. I was just talking to a guy yesterday who is one of the political leaders in Wyoming in the United States, and they're assisting with a fund to tokenize bulls, championship bulls. So they're doing all kinds of great stuff, and maybe we can introduce them to Stobox to get the championship bulls out to the rest of the world. So with that, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you being here. It means a lot to us if you like, subscribe, and also leave a review, because that gives us the opportunity to invite excellent guests like Borys. Thank you again, and bye now.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me, Michael. This was a great interview, and you're an amazing host.
Well, thank you. I like I said, I had a little bit of an inkling as to what you guys were doing. I really like the entire suite of stuff that you explained. And I have a guy that we're bringing on. He was a speaker at two of the events. He's based, do you know DNA? They're digital.
Yes, we referred a few deals to a few of our clients to them.
Okay, because Jason's a good guy, and he's got a pretty big accredited investor list. So we've been trying to arrange to get him on to the podcast to talk a little bit about how to go out doing that, because I think most people again, they don't even think about the legal part. They might know the basic real estate acquisition part, but they don't know the structuring part in terms of the accounting and the tax part of it. And they definitely don't even consider the marketing part. So they think that if you tokenize, people will come.
Yeah, that's painful for us, unfortunately, and also it creates this kind of ethical tension when you don't want to discourage people too much in the pre-sale process, but you also want to be honest up front so that they don't come in and then get their expectations shattered.
Yeah, I talked with a few founders. Unfortunately, like these guys I talked with last year, they were launching a deal on Solana, and it was like it was kind of like a Lofty or Realty knockoff. They were doing it on Solana. And I said, it might be better for you to just like take all these houses and put them into a fund instead of the individual stuff. And there were some other things that I had mentioned. And the guy he was a younger guy. He was very dismissive of me. I'm like, okay. My advice is free, so take it with what it's worth. But next time I'll charge you $750 an hour, and maybe you'll listen to it.
Yeah, actually charging people helps to make your advice have more weight.
Yeah. All right, Borys. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure again.
Thank you for listening to the Blockchain Real Estate Podcast, hosted by the Blockchain Real Estate Summit. Don't forget to sign up for the Blockchain Real Estate Summit 2024, happening this September 24th through 26th, online for our worldwide audience. Get your tickets at blockchainrealestatesummit.com/registration. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to follow the Blockchain Real Estate Podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback really helps increase the visibility of our show, allowing us to reach more listeners like you. If you have someone in mind you would like us to interview, you can go to blockchainrealestatesummit.com and leave a comment.
Hi, this is Adam Carswell, the voice of Liberty. This podcast is solely intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to provide tax, legal, investment, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, accounting, or investment advisors before engaging in any transaction or undertaking. Thank you for listening to the Blockchain Real Estate Podcast, which is a part of the Blockchain Real Estate Summit Network. Go to blockchainrealestatesummit.com for more information, free reports, and giveaways with free stuff. Thank you.